Welcome to the Overcoming Adversity podcast, where it's all about transformational growth and having a resilient mindset. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. I'm your host, Michael Allison. As a reaction from the tragedy of 9/11, Rick DellaRatta started his company, Jazz for Peace. He's a legendary jazz artist, composer, entrepreneur, and philanthropist who has been able to achieve so many outstanding achievements. He's faced his own fair share of adversities. And I'd like to welcome to the show my really good friend, Mr. Rick DellaRatta. Welcome to
Thank
the
you
show,
so
sir.
much. Thank you so much, Mike.
Thank you, man, for being here. It's been a pleasure of mine. I know that you're a jazz artist, so if you can, man, start us off with a sample of what you got, man.
Okay, we'll do. I like New York in June. How about you? I like a Gershwin tune. How about you? I like a fireside when a storm is due. I like potato chips, moonlight and motor trips. How about you? I'm mad about good books, can't get my fill. And Marilyn Monroe's looks give me a thrill. Holding hands at the visual when all the lights are low may not be new, but I like it. How about you? Free jazz, free jazz, just for peace. Love it. That's so cool.
Hey, man, thank you for that rendition, brother. That sounded so amazing, man. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you. It started out with an old standard because I don't know when the show will air. It's funny because I've been doing it. It's a song about New York in June, which is right where I am now. We're right in the middle of June.
Right.
I'm right in the middle of New York City, like right in the middle of it. And I usually just play the song. I mean, I mainly play it in the month of June. Then I forget. I know it. I forget the song. All of a sudden, June comes around. I'm like, wait a minute. There's that song about New York in June. So it's time to play that song. Flavor of the month, you could say. And then I just went into something that I just make up, and I make it up for every show. It's completely different. If somebody wants to hear what I just did, they can't come to me because I won't remember. I don't even I just made it up. So they'd have to come to your show and hear what I just did because it could never be played again. And it's called free. I call it Free JA. That's what I call that. And it's a song that basically it originates, the title originates from Haiti, because I showed up to Haiti to do a concert there, and they had a big sign, and the sign said, "Welcome Jazz for Peace." JASS. And you can actually, if you go to if ever watch my Haiti video, sometimes people are interested in what's going on in Haiti, and they'll go and watch the Jazz for Peace videos, and they'll see this sign of jazz in their mind spelled wrong, But this brings us around to something that a lot of times we learn something wrong in the first place, and it's hard for us because someone who never learned it at all, I have a friend that I ski with, and he writes me email, like little text. He'll write me send an email or a text. Hey, Jazzman, JSS. And this guy don't know nothing about jazz. You know what I mean? When I'm talking about music, for me to hold his attention, I'd probably have to play like at the beginning, maybe a Bob Dylan song or something in his, and then go into jazz. And then I would keep, he don't nothing about jazz, and he spells it right because he never learned it wrong. So it's really a Creole word. It comes from there. And I just took the S's off and the Z's off. And now I have Free JA, which is an issue the Jazz for Peace is dealing now just with the problems we're having with, the concern about freedom of speech, the concern about the rights of these, the reporters to be able to write what they see and not get bombed themselves for writing something that they saw. And, the situation with innocent civilians, it brings us back to what we talked about off stage. I've done you fascinated me with your story because I've worked with so many people that have military backgrounds or even in the military. When I was in the last overseas concert I did was in Nigeria, and the second day I was in Nigeria, just taking care of things for the concert, they said, "We're taking you to a radio interview. So you've been requested." I said, "Okay, where is it?" They said, "It's at the military base. The military wants to talk to you about jazz." And I was like, "Wow, isn't that fascinating?" And I got over there, and, they were like, "We look at what you're doing." And and one time I was in Seattle too. I'm in Seattle, and I'm in a, I'll try not to lose the Nigeria story, but I'm in the queue to get on the plane. I'm in the thing, where everybody's waiting to get on the plane. And I see a guy in the all full military now. This guy's got his full military. And I'm thinking, geez, I didn't know there was a military base in Seattle, because I played in Seattle a bunch of times. I never saw anybody with full dress military. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm like, that's interesting. I wonder what he's doing here. Maybe there's an incident. Maybe there's who that. I'm just wondering. I have no idea. And as we go around, like that thing where you kind of pass each other,
Yeah.
He passes me and he goes, "Hey man, great show last night. Loved your show." And I'm like, "Whoa, so you were at the show?" Yeah. He's a military person from another base who flew to Seattle to see my show, the Jazz for Peace show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And again, it's just a lot of people think, Jazz for Peace and the military might not, they don't bring it together how much they do have in common. You know what I mean? Servicemen enlist to fight for peace, really. They're trying to solve a problem. And it was amazing to be in Nigeria and have them tell me, "We look at what you do, and man, if you could solve the problems before they escalate to us having to step in and, you know what I mean? Lives and all that at risk, that would just be tremendous, so they just want to support, my efforts."
Wow.
I was honored.
Wow. Man, I'm honored to have you here, man. Thank you for the song once again. Thank you for bringing us in with telling us a little bit about like some of the things that you've been doing. And I wanted to jump into what you had said when you started. And 9/11 is what resonated for me, as I'm a military veteran, and 9/11 kicked off the start for me to go to Iraq and fight in OIF war. So can you tell us a little bit about what that tragedy did for you? What was 9/11 for you? How did that experience go? And what led to you starting Jazz for Peace and going on this mission that you're on now?
So yeah, I mean, it's funny because I had known this in life, but I never quite experienced anything as powerful as what happened on the day of 9/11. But a lot of a lot of profound things come from the soil of adversity. You know what I mean?
Right,
Sometimes
right,
if you're just going through life easily, blah, 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 a powerful life change, might not, you know what I mean? You might have trouble getting that kind of a feeling, but
right,
kind of when the rubber band is pulled all the way down, stretched all the way to its limits, something like that, all of a sudden that's when a powerful and hopefully positive response can happen. As we talked off stage, can be extraordinarily positive or extraordinarily negative, then leading to positive. I mean,
correct,
anything can happen. You
correct.
can go any direction. I was just in a situation where, they say luck is when preparation meets opportunity. And I was just extremely prepared through everything I'd been through in my life, mainly being a musician, traveling all over the world, and being well known, or at the cusp of being well known when
Mhm.
this tragedy happened. So it was all three of those things. I mean, had I just been a musician, yeah, I would have known, the incredible power of music to relate to people and to, all that stuff. And then traveling led me to see for my own eyes, actually, this is a worldwide thing. This is not just a phenomenon at your show, at the show you're playing on or whatever. This is,
Right,
this is just everybody in the world transmits to music. Everyone, it cuts through every barrier, race, creed, culture, religion, you name it. You can reach people's hearts through music. And that's common ground. When you reach somebody through music, you now have a commonality that's a lot of times missing when people are at odds, because they're trying to create more odds, you know what I mean, rather than trying to find common ground. And whether you want it or not, music brings it. It brings it to the table. And if you're a skilled musician, especially, I mean, if you're just, if you sing, if you're just trying to throw something out there, you know what I mean, then you're gonna get that awful shit away from me. But if you're a skilled musician, hopefully you can play something that you can find them. Do you know what I mean? Like, I played in Pakistan, and when I got back, first of all, we don't cover stuff like this enough. We don't cover the arts and culture, which
true.
is going to lead to my whole point at the end of this, or the whole wrap up, which is really all these brainiacs are trying to solve our world's problems, and they're leaving out the arts and culture. That's insane. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
That's just, I mean, I can sit with a bag of popcorn and watch them, because they're never going to do it. You cannot remove the arts and culture and expect to solve problems like this. The arts and culture has to play the biggest role of all, perhaps.
Perhaps, yeah.
Yeah. So, but anyway, I saw this with my own eyes. I traveled all over the world, and then my CDs were out, and I was traveling as a band leader, so I was getting known around the world somewhat enough, just to be able to be in a position where I could act the way I did. Okay.
Right,
Basically, what happened was, the 9/11 thing. I had been fortunate enough to, in New York. Um, in New York, there are a lot of people who could be famous. Everybody knows that, right? Because you got a lot of people in New York that are like, and there are a lot of people who are photographers who will, if they're smart, they'll go up to some people that they think might be somebody someday. And most of them are walking around New York without pictures, or not enough pictures, because they're not famous enough. It's catch 22. So
yeah.
basically, like Linda McCartney, who was Paul McCartney's wife. I mean, she really became a well-known photographer before she met Paul as a well-known photographer for shooting the Beatles.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
by walking up to people like Bob Dylan and those all those I don't know, David the Crosby, Stills, Nash Young. I don't know, the all those guys that were walking around in Tompkins Square Park in the 60s, that were just Joni Mitchell, whoever they were. They were just
Mhm.
there playing in little folk clubs, starving for nothing. But she was like, "Hey, this is a movement. This could be something, and I'll take your picture, and I'll give you can I keep? Yes, you can keep it. And give me free pictures. That's a great deal for me." She had all those pictures when those people loved. So somebody was taking my picture on the 10th. And man,
Ah,
and I'm like, sure, man, it's a great deal for, it's a great deal for us because, otherwise we'd have to call somebody, pay them money, all that. This
right, right.
stuff. So she took pictures. If you look at the Jazz for Peace CD, if you ever look at that CD, you'll see a kind of picture of me in the East Village in front of a dumpster. And just,
Mm.
that's she had her little flavor of how she wanted to shoot me. And she had a job on Wall Street to pay for her photography habit,
Ah, I see, I
So
see. Yeah.
she calls me from Wall Street the next morning and all frazzled. And she's like, I'm sorry, did I wake you up? I said, yeah, but no big deal, no problem. Listen, I know we spent the day together tomorrow. She's all out of it. I didn't know who to call. I just thought of you. I said, look, don't worry about it. No big deal. Just what's the deal? What's going on? What's the problem? I said, well, listen, I'm on the 5th floor walk up. I'm less than a quarter of a mile away from the World Trade Center is right in front of me. Let
Mhm,
me just go up on the roof and take a look at this, something,
mhm.
I mean, at the time we're thinking some idiot was flying a kite. Who the heck knows what some stupid thing, I mean, how it was unheard of. Who flew some stupid little his private plane? How could you crash? How could you do that? It wasn't,
Right,
we weren't thinking anything like
right,
anything
right,
different,
right.
Let me go up there and take a look. So I go up there and now it's like walking into a movie, It's like you walked in the screen, just walked in the
Wow.
because I'm in part of a movie. I'm like, I got a front row seat, I mean, you can't get a seat like this at the freaking Atlanta Falcons game if they're in the World Series. You know what I mean? If they're in the Super Bowl, this is like a crazy front row seat on the roof, staring at the happenings. And what could I do? What can anybody do? It's you're not prepared for it. It's a complete it's completely uncharted waters. I mean, I'm sure people watching on TV like, what? No one's ever seen something like that in New York City. So basically, words came out of me. And at the end of that day, all I had was a bunch of words on a piece of paper. And I
Right.
called the poem Jazz for Peace. And that's what I
Mm.
had. I just, okay, I don't, this is what came from this day. That's in my mindset. This day just happened, and this is what all I have to show for it, a poem, and I'm not even a poet. I'm a lyricist, but I'm sitting here, this is what I have. This is all I got.
Mhm.
I don't know. I mean, I keep, as a musician, we keep like channels open, like a channel for things to flow
Yeah.
through you. Yeah, we just do that. And I'm sure that was part of your recovery because I know everyone who, goes through any kind of recovery, they're almost acting in a way that we learn to act as musicians so that we can make music in an improvisatory way. It has to flow through you. You can't make it. It's actually not even you making it if it's coming, it's just coming through you,
Just coming through you. Yeah.
so I just keeping those channels open. So I'm like, so this is strange. This happened and this is my result. So the next thing I know, uh, the whole as you know, the whole country's closed down. Everything's changed. You can't get on a plane. You can't do anything. I couldn't even go out of my neighborhood. There were checkpoints. There were giant tanks. And I just to go to the grocery store, I had to show my ID to go in and out of because I'm within the quarter of a mile thing.
Right.
I'm in this quarter of a mile thing that's like a war zone at this point. And I have to go in and out through, with my show my ID, just I gotta get, hey man, I gotta get some groceries. You gotta let me out to do that. Because the grocery store is like a little bit across. It's like not in there, it's like over here, and I gotta
Mhm.
go there, and I'm like, it's crazy. So anyway, the finally they open up and they open up, thank God, because I was a headliner at the Savannah Jazz Festival in Georgia.
Right.
And finally and I had to get on a plane with my band and go down there. And next thing I know, I mean, this thing was well attended. There were over 8,500 people there. I'm the headliner act at the festival. And, I was looking at a very different trajectory before this thing had happened. But hey, this thing happened. And I'm the man who watched it with the poem, as far as everyone at this thing that, I mean, nobody has what I have at this festival. I mean,
Right.
there might be some people from New York, but I think most of the people from New York were musicians. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
The people
Right,
at the
right,
festival were probably from that region of the country.
right.
So there's 8,500 people, and I'm in a situation that Edgar Allan Poe would want to kill for. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And what am I going to do? Well, so I recite the poem. I recite the poem. That's the next thing that happens. I write a poem and then I recite it for 8,500 people. And even the musicians on stage were taken aback. They were like, they were moved, and everyone was moved, and it was a moment. It was quite a moment. So after that, that moment resonates and it trickles all the way up back here. And I had another high profile concert in upstate New York in this, spectacular music hall that had these pristine acoustics. And it was, just like a jewel of the region, and I have a concert in there. And those promoters are calling me and they're like, "Hey man, what's up with this poem? And we heard about this." And then I get a call from a a writer, someone who writes articles. And he's like, "Hey man, can you recite that poem?" I didn't know he was recording me, but can you recite it? What's this poem thing? And they're just, everyone's about this poem. And then they're like, "Do you think you might be able to, do you think this might be put to music by the time of the concert?" I mean, they're just like they're putting the ideas in my head, and I was like,
Right.
"Geez, maybe, I don't know, let me see. I'll look into it. Let me look into it for you. I'll get back to you on that, So I did put it to music, and I started out that concert with the song Jazz for Peace. So when that article came out, the article was, Rick DellaRatta starts concert out. DellaRatta starts concert with Jazz for Peace. That's the whole article. You know what I mean? So now Jazz for Peace is launched on numerous fronts here, because the person who did the article before me, he had captured the Jazz for Peace poem in his article. And then he captured a sentence that I said off the top of my head. I wouldn't have even remembered saying it. And if it came out on a website with my name, I'd like, "Hey, I was plagiarized in a good way." But I never said that. I don't remember saying nothing like that. So I just said it in passing. And all I said was, just something that I, based on my, what I knew about people in my travels. I just said, "Listen, if we as human beings fill our souls up with, our greatest characteristics, if we fill our souls up with artistry, creativity, humanity, intellectuality, individuality, all of these things," I said, "we will have a better chance at avoiding the behavior that leads to destruction." Which, I can stand by. I mean, that's true. You want to lower your chances. I mean, you want to do everything you can to have the best chance. And that sentence does really, I mean, for sure, you're going to have a better chance than if you do, the other way. But that's all I said. It's pretty much common sense. It's just something that flew out of me, just common sense. That gets lifted and into famous quotes websites. So if you put Rick DellaRatta famous quote into Google, you'll find my biggest hit. My biggest hit. A sentence that I said that just got lifted, and it's in there with Gandhi and Einstein and all those people.
Wow.
Yeah, they have a lot. I'm a one-hit wonder. I've only got one, but all of their famous quotes. And a lot of people I learned about, like Aldous Huxley. I didn't even know who he was, and I saw his quotes. I mean, the quotes from these people are amazing. Malcolm X. It could be anybody. You're just reading these quotes, and you see this one and that one, and they're profound and inspiring. So now, that's the thing. Now it's kind of launched. So that's basically how it got out of the bag, so to speak. And then from there, it just went from one thing to another. The benefit concert series to help outstanding causes, a musical instrument donation program, that gives kids the kind of weapon that I want them to have, a musical instrument. And then, educational programs for the schools.
And that is absolutely amazing. I don't know if you're ready to perform either that song or that poem.
Okay.
But if you can, I would like to hear it. Hear this version.
Okay, I'll do the poem. So what I do with the poem is really, I kind of recite it, and then I do a I kind of I just do a free improvisation underneath that poem.
Not a problem, man. I want to hear it.
Okay. I hear jazz for peace. coming through the trees. And in my heart it fills me like a celebration. I see the light. And I want to follow. Inspired by the past contributions of those that came before. Laid the groundwork for us to build on in this universal language that is a gift for all mankind. When we speak it, people are enlightened by the creativity and artistry. That stands for peace. And love and humanity. And intelligence that leads to reaching potential that we have in our soul. So we can raise our total conscience and see that the gift of giving is our greatest privilege. I hear jazz for peace. Love it.
Rick, thank you for that, man. I'm listening to the words, and it's hitting me on a different level as like this is personal for me. So thank you for sharing that, man.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. I'm glad. I'm glad you're able to. I'm glad the words came. You're able to hear all those words in there, and I'm able to do it for you. Pleasure.
So thank you, man. So we were speaking about the power of music and the connection that it delivers to people. And I wanted to talk a little bit and expound on that with the Jazz for Peace movement. So, can you tell us now, like it has taken off and it has opened up so many doors for you. So, can you talk a little bit about some of the opportunities that has came your way from this traumatic incident with 9/11? So now you're out here in this world, and now you're just blessing people with your music, your gift, your talents, and just collaboration with so many other people and things like that.
Right. Well, one thing that I thought on that when I had those words and I wrote those words, I said, um, really, if there's ever a time for me to try to live up to the words that I wrote and that I believe are true and that I know are true and that I've lived and seen for my own eyes, now is the time to, there's never going to be, it's not like hey, there's no, I'm gonna put it off as soon as I get get my pension or my vacation home or this or that. I'm good. Then I'm gonna, no. The time is now. If I'm gonna give it a try to live up to these words and really walk the walk and be the change that I want to see in the world, as the quote related to Gandhi. Now is the time. So let me try to live up to these words for a few days, a few hours, whatever I can swing. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
Until life overcomes me, and I just say, well, I have to throw up the red flag, the white flag, whatever. You know what I mean? Hey, man, I did. I made it from here to here. I made it.
Right.
I made it this. I mean, it was 5 glorious days of trying.
Right.
So I just kept trying to live up to those words. Well, what am I? It's kind of like, well, okay. You lived up to the words when you wrote the poem. Then you lived up to the words when you recited to the poem. Then you lived up to the words when you, when you started basically playing some gigs around New York City. That's what came next was like, what am I going to do next? This just happened. If I'm going to live up to these words, what would I do from here? And I thought, let me play some little shows around New York City as Jazz for Peace, and at least say I did that. At least I said I did that in relation to the words of the poem. While I was doing that and doing other gigs that I was just doing, the other gigs that I was doing, I asked my manager at the time. I said, listen, I know you're going to think I'm crazy, but if you wouldn't mind, when you get a break in the action, call over to the United Nations and tell them who I am. Because again, I had a resume and some things that, would hopefully make them not just think I was, some crazy guy with an idea. And, I want to bring together Israeli, Palestinian, and American jazz musicians because I've seen them already around here in New York City. People come from all over the world to study jazz in New York. I want to bring them in for a concert I want to play at the United Nations, and do this kind of thing. So she's like, well, who do I call? I said, look, you're probably going to get redirected all over the place and get back to you and all this stuff. Just follow the path where it leads and just see what happens, So as I'm doing these little concerts in New York City and playing, the gigs that I would normally play or whatever, she lets me know. I think it was within a itinerary of other events. So it was kind of like, hey, you got this thing in Paris. Then you're going to go from Paris to Milan and play in this little club in Milan with this other Italian bass player. You're going to bring the American guy who was driving a cab in America, but now he's a big star in France. He's going to get on the, that you're playing with Monday in France. He's going to come with you to Milan. Then you're going to get this bass player in Milan. Then you're going to like, what was it? A Luxembourg, you know what I mean? Blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. Oh, and by the way, that United Nations thing. Yeah, they want to do that. And I was like, what? And I'm like, I said, you know what? Forget about trying to tell her about the significance of this. I just believe it myself. If I'm going to be the only, she doesn't know. So fine. Okay, good. Well, how does it work? Blah, blah, blah. And then she starts telling me some parameters that were, we needed. There was a mission to the mission to the such and such was going to sponsor it. I needed to get one more sponsor on board for this or that. So I needed to, put these parameters together. But if we could, these were the conditions and it could be done. Mm-hmm. So now I do this concert at the United Nations I said, listen, you've got to have an Israeli and a Palestinian in the band. I don't care I don't care where the other guys are from, but two guys, one's got to be one's got a guy's got to be from Palestine. You know what I mean? I think we had a drummer from Europe, I think maybe Austria or something like that, maybe another guy from Asia. I don't know. But anyway, she's telling me about this guy. I said, call this guy. I think he's originally ask him if I think he's originally from Lebanon. Because this guy used to tell me how he played these he was in a Middle Eastern circuit. He was a percussion player, really nice guy, just sweetheart of a person. Love the guy. And he was in a circuit where they would play these gigs. We didn't know any about them. They were like kind of underground gigs. So it was just for that community. And it was for other people in that community, because he knew the music, the Lebanese music or whatever. He said the people would dance and they would throw money on the floor.
Wow.
Got off the dance floor. And we had incredible gigs because, there's no shortage of starving artists. But this guy was cleaning up on these ethnic things he was doing. And basically they throw money on the floor and then they sweep it up with a broom and they just count it up and disperse amongst the, split it up. And he'd walk out with, like, sometimes he said, 700, 800, sometimes a grand a night. Now this is back then. So that's like $3,000 today, you know, for like a private party. Yeah. So anyway, I was like, call him. He had told me that story once. So I knew he could be, you know what I mean? So he was our Palestinian. And then she on her own found, a bass player that was here from Israel. I didn't know who. I had never met that guy. But anyway, we got my, my thing was fixed. We had the other guy, a couple of the guys in the band that I knew had played my music, all that. We did our thing. Nobody really showed up, I mean, the people who were at the United Nations anyway, they were there. That was cool.
Right.
But I mean, as far as our press releases, I doubt the musicians even knew the significance of it, But I was like, I don't care what anybody thinks. I think this is significant.
Absolutely.
I think it's significant. And as time went on, to get to your question, the resonation from my achievements started to resonate with people who just couldn't. They just had too much character within themselves to not realize it. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you can only ignore something for so long before you become the idiot if you keep ignoring it. And if you know you're an idiot, that's not fun for you. Not fun for you to wake up in the day, geez, this is another day of me being an idiot by not recognizing something that I know damn well is substantial. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I start doing these benefit. Now after the United Nations thing happens, which I said resonated about 2 inches, it resonated to the wall of the United Nations probably, and that's it. But while that's at least starting to get a word around a little teeny bit here and there, I'm doing these benefit concerts in New York City. And after I did enough of them, one of my concerts I show up to, it was actually in Queens, New York, and it was to assist there's just so many outstanding causes. I didn't know that, I figured there's probably about a dozen, 15 in New York City. Well, I'll help 6 of them and call it a day, but there's 60,000 nonprofits in New York City alone. There's 1.5 million in the world, and there's 10 million worldwide. In other words, there's enough nonprofits that if we were able to dig deep and find the ones that are truly dedicated, God only knows how many of our world's problems we could solve. I mean, yeah, so a lot of the solutions are just sitting right in front of us, but no one's asking me, who has seen for my own eyes that we could do tremendously, just finding those ones and separating the wheat from the chaff, so to speak, which is what Jazz Reese does. We bring out people. We don't care if you're a big nonprofit, a small nonprofit, an old nonprofit, or a new nonprofit. And we don't care who you know. We care who you are. If you are really dedicated to solving a problem, we want to help you.
Right.
If you're paying yourself $500,000 a year and making the problem, then the problem keeps getting worse. That's not. Yeah, and actually, those people they don't even want to. They don't want anything to do with Jazz Repeats, because we're shining a spotlight on them as being legitimate. And if you're shining the spotlight on somebody, those people don't want a spotlight shined on them anyway. So the legitimate ones are like, oh my God, thank you. I need to get, I need you to show that how dedicated I am at this or whatever. So as we're doing that, I'm at this place in Queens, which is basically for Holocaust survivors, and they want to expand their services. And that's what my concerts do, helping them expand their services and getting the publicity for it so that they can get known so that they can get the word out. They can get sponsors to help them with these, all these things that they want to do, because, they need to do more things than just help Holocaust survivors, because Holocaust survivors are becoming less and less, they're dying off, they're old, and they want to keep doing the great work they're doing in an expanded way. Anyway, at that event, I hear someone reading like a proclamation, up on the stage, reading this thing to all the people. And he's reading something that's saying all of these true things about me and Jazz for Peace. And I'm like, who the hell even knows this? You know what I mean? And the other guys are like, they're eating food and sandwiches and shooting the shit. You know what I mean? I'm like, you guys quiet down a little bit, or forget. Let me walk over here and just see what the hell they're talking about. And then at the end of this proclamation, and I hope you enjoy your evening and blah blah blah. Michael Bloomberg, mayor of New York City. And I
Oh,
said,
wow.
what the hell? You're telling me that's the mayor? Yeah, he said, the mayor is on to you. He is on to what you're doing, and
Mhm.
he wants you to keep going. And you know what? We're giving you, because this is a letter. This is yours. You take this letter. They gave me the letter. It's probably on the wall around here somewhere, you know?
Mhm.
So I got this letter from Michael Bloomer, and I'm like, wow, who the hell, if he could come to that realization and send me a letter, who the heck knows, who else might come to their senses or whatever, or at least take a look at what I'm doing here. But
Right.
anyway, from his letter, I realized I had to at least start. I had a global mission, and the global mission wasn't really going past the New York City. You know what I mean? It was going about as far as the New York City border. It was like
Mhm.
New York City and 5 boroughs was my global mission at that point. So I'm like, I got to at least cover the state of New York, and I got to get Buffalo in here or whatever. So I start doing other, cities, states, and countries is what we started doing. Expand to that. And as I'm expanding to that, some people are getting it, some people aren't, but some people are really getting it. I mean, they had like
Mhm.
Jazz for Peace Day in Alabama. I can't remember which city. I don't know. I think it might have been Birmingham, or it might have been Huntsville, Alabama. I think Huntsville, Alabama had Jazz for Peace Day, and all these just interesting things were happening with people who were getting the message.
Mhm.
Lots of them. Actually, we started to get press, and the first person that wrote about us was the homeless newspaper.
Mm.
The newspaper. Here's the deal. We had, I don't know if we still have, it was called Outward or something like that. And basically, someone had started this thing to print up this newspaper, and the homeless people would sell it for $1. And the homeless people, it was just amazing. I'd be on the subway, and I see these homeless people with a thing with my picture on it. And I buy it to show the person I was riding the subway with. I said, you got to see it. I said, here, look, you take $1. Give me one of those. This is check this out. I'd be, what the hell? This thing I'm doing, Jazz for Peace. And so anyway, these things happen. You can't put a price tag on it, for just the joy that it brings you to, just the experience. So yeah, they were the first company to cover us was the homeless newspaper in New York. And for like a week or two, an article about me was on the cover of their paper that they were getting $1 for to, keep them going.
Wow.
So, and like I said, one thing to another. I mean, it could take the rest of the year to tell you the whole story, but you know what I'm saying? It was just
I
one
got
to
you.
another, leading to a situation where we got to our 500th event, and I was in Chicago, and I got a letter from Barack Obama because he had been a senator in Chicago. I was in his jurisdiction. I was helping a cause that was near and dear to his heart. And then I was able to see that these kinds of synergies can resonate with people, whether they're celebrities, whether they could be an athlete, it could be a politician, it could be someone. But, everyone has something that's near and dear to their heart. Someone might have lost a family member to a certain affliction. If I'm performing for that, with sickle cell anemia, could even be whatever it is. I could, I could reach out to, or they could reach out, or we could reach out to a person who had, who that specifically, and then that person comes on board to help that cause on that day.
Mhm.
See what I mean?
Mhm.
So it built something called an empowerment tree, which is just a whole bunch of ways that we help, including finances. But as you know, finance is just one piece of the puzzle, and we were able to unite the art form of jazz with a fundraising model that I had developed.
Got you. Man, you guys have done some amazing things, traveled the world, and empowered so many people and inspired so many people based off this movement. I wanted to take things back a little bit, Rick. So, for you to get to this level of success where you're at, man, I know a couple things could have taken place. Like, I want to ask you, while you're on your movement, doing all of this, and you have all of this momentum going, did you ever face any like resentment, any pushback from anybody while you're trying to do what you're trying to do? And then, if you did, how did you overcome that?
I still do face it. I still do face it. What I've had to do, and this is only in the last few years, because you keep thinking, sometimes I would hear stories from people like, I remember a story actually of Dwayne Wade, the basketball player,
Oh my God.
and he was, yeah, because you're in South Florida. He lives in Florida. He lives there, right? He played for the
Yes.
Heat. Okay,
Yeah.
so you might even know the story. I don't know. Now, here's a guy who had an issue with his father, according to the story that he told, where it just nothing was ever enough, for his father. And he said, I finally realized that it's not me when I won an NBA championship and he was knocking my game. It wasn't enough. He didn't score enough on that day. And so that's when you realize that a lot of the problems that we have in the world are not so much with humans, but they're with human nature. People are adapted a certain way, and they're always adversarial. They're always this thing. And it's taken off on YouTube under the form of narcissism. If you were
Mhm.
to type narcissistic this or that, I mean, these videos come up and these people get thousands of hits, tens of, some guy, 500,000 hit, like just a housewife who has an incredible understanding of it, and she'll put a video on YouTube and hundreds of thousands of people will look at it, or even some that aren't well known, 50,000, 60,000 hits, because it's affected so many people. So many people can relate to this. And it's, what, it's tough. You have to struggle with it all the time, because these kinds of people, it's nothing's ever enough for them. You know what I mean? They'll always doubt you. They'll always try to smear you or slight you. And a lot of it has to do with their own deep-seated issues. And what's triggering them is your success.
Exactly.
So your success is getting them, once they get mad at you. Look at that, you're mad at me for. I'm just doing some. I'm trying to make you happy over here. You know what I mean? But they're mad at you. They want to take it out on you. They don't want to take it out now on, the guy who got and can't stop drinking, and his wife is about to boot him off of a balcony. You know what I mean? They don't want to take it out on him. He's good. He's all good. Everything he does is fine. It's me that's trying to achieve, basic common sense, ideals that they're pissed off at and mad at, and I don't know, jealous or whatever. And so you have to, what? It's an ongoing thing that you have to keep growing with and struggling with. And what I do, to be honest, the way I do it is, and I've been telling this recently, a print company, just like earlier this year, it was within the last 12 months, I got contacted by them. They said, we want to do an article on you about what makes Rick DellaRatta happy. Now,
Mhm.
that was cool. I didn't know I was happy, but they want to do the article. So I'll go talk to them. So I'm like, so I said, what do you want me to do? They said, I know the jokes get better as we go along, right? So I said, listen, they said, we want you to list 5 things that make you happy. And I said, okay, let me do that. So I took a sentence and I put in the sentence, I said, find a blank that works for you. And I put it 5 times. And then I just put a different word in and a little paragraph about that word. And I don't even remember the 5 things I listed, but if I look at the article, I will be like, whoa, if you took those 5 things, man, you could have you could play a damn good game of life today on this planet by a combination of those 5 things. And we so easily forget about those 5 things. We forget to include them. And the next thing you know, somebody or other is getting the best of us for kind of no reason at all, because we didn't keep our boat, properly, you know what I mean? Properly, whatever it is, on the water.
Right, right.
So, one of the very first one I put was find a philosophy that works for you. I didn't know that's how philosophy. I didn't know it meant anything to me, really. I knew it meant something, but I didn't know I was going to list it, subconsciously first. And then I took the philosophy, which I had said stoicism, but I said, find one that works for you. As long as you find one that works for you. And I said, this is one that works for me. This is why, and that kind of thing. And if, I can look at that philosophy and it will have things that will help me cope with these kinds of narcissistic situations, little things that this guy, Marcus Aurelius, who was a Roman Empire, and other people that also felt that way, that they kind of put into this group, how they coped with it, and you can find out how to cope with it. But I'll tell you, a lot of people, we spoke about PTSD and how you get that in war and how you even got it and all that stuff. There's a lot of people with PTSD walking around in the United States because they have been, victimized by these people not knowing how to react, trying to please someone who's unpleasable because they're mad at you for you doing something that they should maybe be doing. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And they're unpleasable, and they're causing you all kinds of issues. And there's people walking around with PTSD because of these people, and their energy and all that stuff. But so how to deal with that? It's an ongoing thing. You have to it's an ongoing situation. It really is. You have to dodge these bullets. People try to smear you and do all kinds of crazy stuff, and you have to get around it, and you have to follow certain steps and guidelines that help keep you out of harm's way and help constantly strengthen your spirit and your I don't know, your inner self.
PTSD, mental health, and things like that. I wanted to see if we could swing back a little bit though. When it comes to getting into your profession of jazz, what was it like for your upbringing that led you to have this sense of purpose and the sense of mission? Was there something from your childhood, something from your parents, or anything of that magnitude that you saw as a kid, that you was going through as a kid, to now you have Jazz for Peace, and now you're helping so many people with this mission that you're on now?
Well, there was one situation where my mother, when she was a kid, she had won a nationwide award from a organization called Future Homemakers of America. And
Mhm.
she had won this award, and this Future Homemakers America, they had these ideals and all this stuff, and she had this plaque and all that, and we had it in our basement. And it was very strange to me because here she was with all these things that she had. She was like the future homemaker of America, and she was from some little town. The town like only had a few hundred people in it. They had one little high school, Tarpon High School. It was in Florida, Punta Gorda, Florida. Punta Gorda, Florida, back in the day. Now we're talking in the 40s, maybe the 50s. It was like probably a street and a half at most, a couple of streets, and she had a little ticker tape parade on the main street of whatever Punta Gorda, Florida is, Tarpon High School or whatever. And I was like, wow. And she had these ideals that came from that, she had these little sayings, you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make him drink.
Yep.
Them kind of things, one sentence things that resonated, and I was like, wow, that. And because of that, our family looked like we had it. We looked like we had that as a family, mainly because of her,
Mm.
But I asked her one day, I was like, why you won this big award? Like, why, what's like, why isn't that, why isn't that in front, like on a banner in front of our house or something? She's like, well, society doesn't value those ideals, aren't valued in today's society. And she
Mm.
said it kind of matter of factly, like I would like without remorse, without wasn't she just kind of, it was like that, society doesn't. And I'm wondering what the heck is going on? Why wouldn't society value those? And it seems like they keep needing them more and more every year, not less and less. So they're not valuing them. It doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? You know what it is? It's an oxymoron. but without any oxy, Mike. You know, that's what it looked like to me. I mean, they just can't, So if you take what she won as a child, if you remove that and you don't value that anymore, you're gonna only need it more and more as time goes on.
Correct.
And what I
Correct.
saw ushered in was kind of because I came from a legal background. My father was a lawyer. And it could have been that, or it could have been just I saw it in general. But what I saw being ushered in was an industry of family destruction. Like divorce is a industry. It's
Yeah.
not a tragedy that we need, that this horrible these poor people, how can we get them back together or amicably resolve it? No, no, no. It's an industry. The
Mhm.
more you get, the more divorces, the better. The bigger divorce, the better. It's like the promotion of the destruction of the family so that the legal system can whack up your freaking finances.
Wow.
You know, if you watch, there's movies on YouTube, you watch them, and the guy will say, look, the first thing we do is we take the lawyer for the wife, we take the lawyer for the husband, and they meet in chambers with the judge without the clients, and they go over the family's finances. Yeah, this family owns 2 houses. They own this, they own that. So that the judge can do crazy things like, well, I'm going to order psychological counseling for the children. And here's the name of the doctor, my friend over here, my friend from my neighbor here. So you're going to get, that's a psychiatrist. And you're all going to come out of the family estate. You know what I mean? So,
Mm.
all these crazy things. Well, I think what we were doing is we were embracing profit for the sake of profit, not for
Mhm.
the sake of common good, not for the sake of people, just profit for the sake of profit. And who's the victim? Victims now are the people who even received all that money, because you see these broken millionaires who now want to be broken billionaires. They don't know of any way forward. Do you know what I mean? All they know is, well, you got two. That wasn't enough. Nope, I'm going to need 4 billion now because the 2 billion didn't make me happy. I got to go. Well, but once they get 4 million, it's got to be 8 billion. That didn't work. It must be the 8 billion number that's going to do it. It must be this new amount of profit. So we've got this, everybody's kind of a victim, and we have to heal. We have to heal all sides of this equation, and we have to realize that there aren't really winners and losers. I mean, losers are on both sides.
Yeah.
It's not fun. I don't think it would be fun to be a multimillionaire and be jealous of someone like me because your conscience sees that I have riches that I've gained from helping all of these people that you don't have. And you want to walk around every day thinking that you're rich and better than everybody. And you can see your conscience is telling you otherwise. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now it's my fault. God damn it. So this is absurd, and that's why we've got to bring the arts and culture in. We have to embrace the arts and culture, and we have to start healing this planet, just like you see in the testimonials page at Jazz for Peace, which is, by the way, I know jazzforpeace.org is the one you're listing, but there's a WordPress page because we have so much archives, as you know. We have so many videos and all that stuff. So you can go to jazzforpeace.wordpress.com/about to this one page that has our empowerment tree, all these quotes from these people that people, famous names that came on board for events that were near and dear to their heart that we did, and helped those outstanding causes by them coming on board as branch 7. By the way, branch 7 is new and prestigious supporters in our branch tree of funding. And you can read as you go down, you'll see a picture of a horse, and we're like right out of the horse's mouth. You can read it. And if you get to the bottom of the page, you do get a prize, because no one's ever gotten to the bottom of the page. You'd have to be, you're going to sit there all day. There's hundreds and hundreds of testimonials from the actual organizations that we.
Oh, wow.
But that's what we've got to do. We've got to, and it's like, it's got to be done. So what are you waiting for? Well, we still have to wait, because these people, for whatever reason, they have to, bounce around and, whatever they need to do to get to that point. But like I said, Dwayne Wade got to the point where he was like, oh my God, my father, I'm just going to have to, come to this situation and embrace him. But I can't feel bad because he didn't think I scored enough points in a game that we won a freaking, NBA championship. I can't put that on me. I've got to like remove me from this equation a little bit here.
Yeah, you gotta live for you, man. You can't live for anybody else's cause, man.
Well, yeah, and for anyone else's opinion, because that can be a trap. Once they get you trapped
Yeah,
in there, I'm going to control him by never being satisfied.
right.
So these are the kinds of little things that you have to grow. And you know what? It's an ongoing. Every day is an ongoing battle with it to learn. And the toughest part is the morning. I woke up this morning thinking in my dream that I missed this podcast. And I was on a bicycle. I was out on the street somewhere, maybe with some groceries on my bike. And I'm like trying to call. Oh my God, it's time for this thing today at 10 o'clock. Oh my God, I got to call them. And I can't find my phone. Then the phone's ringing. I hear the phone ringing in one of my pockets or whatever. It's in maybe the grocery bag. Oh, the phone. And then the phone like falls apart while I'm trying to answer it. And I'm like, there's the guy on the other line. Mike is on the other line, and I can't even click to get him to tell him, hey, wait a minute, I got to ride my bike back. I'm going to be 15 minutes, because it's getting out. So now it's going to get canceled. Have to be rescheduled for, September 18th or something. And and then after all of that, I'm like, hey, wait a minute, I'm not even awake. So it's the toughest part of my day is often the very, very beginning when I just wake up to the heaviness that we're all facing. But once I get into the battle, then everything kind of changes. It changes.
Stuck on ready is something that I always say to myself, man. Just always be prepared for the day as you get ready to rock and roll, man. As we get ready to get out of here, Rick,
Okay.
I had a couple more questions for you before we get out of here.
Sure.
Based off what you've done, man, and it's been remarkable. How do you measure success now, man? Because you've done so much, you got so many testimonials, you've worked with so many people. What is next in regards to like you measuring like the amount of success or the reach that you're trying to make right now?
Well, and I try not to be too long, but answer it succinctly as I can. And that is try to do what your spirit, try to follow your star in life. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
When you get in touch with your star, it almost dictates to you what the right thing to do and the best thing to do. And the game almost comes to you like, hey, there are all these options, but it might not be what society is telling you, subliminal messages, but in your heart it's the right thing, and do that. But then try to avoid being like gaslighted. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Gaslighted into not even believing that what you did, you did. I found myself in a couple podcasts where people did their research. One guy did a lot of research on Judge Bees and said, "Hey, you went to Pakistan unarmed, with nothing but your talent in a middle of a region, where Bo Bergdahl was actually not far from where he was being held because he had walked off his military base, and you played a concert, and he, to help people with literacy, and you did." And I was like, damn, you know what? You're right. I did do that.
right.
But you forget what you're doing because there's so much, you know what I mean? It's almost like you're gaslighted in a way. So in other words, if you are able to say to yourself, you know what? I don't care how much adversity is for what, I wouldn't trade anything for that. Try to ask yourself, if you wouldn't trade anything, then you have no reason to complain. It's your fault if you're complaining. And that's what I find myself in a situation where, I wish this and I wish that, but then when push comes to shove, I wouldn't trade those achievements that you view. I wouldn't trade them for anything that I want. There's nothing I want that I would trade it for. You see what I mean?
Mhm.
So based on that, I have to come to the conclusion that I don't really have a reason to be, I don't have a reason to complain. So what the heck am I doing for no reason? And that's what helps me get into the right frame of mind.
Absolutely. So, Rick, when you came on here, you told me that the experience of 9/11 sparked a lot of things for you and it spiraled in a positive direction. And I know from that, for myself, it opened up my eyes and appreciated my family more. Let me appreciate America more. Being someone that came from Jamaica, it allowed me to appreciate the guys that I was battling and fighting arms with. And but it did lead me down a road after going to war and coming back of PTSD, traumatic brain injuries, and different types of relationship issues and things like that. And I imagine also behind what you were doing and your cause, you were having some effect of seeing something that literally played out into a movie right in front of me, knowing that this could have been me, this could have happened to me. I was just down the street from here. We just lost so many people. And I know that had a resounding effect on you when you were playing your song, playing your music, knowing like you're doing this for all of these people. Can you talk to us, Rick, as we get ready to get out of here, of some of the life lessons, some of the advice from like your experiences, your cause, your mission, and your journey that some of our audience could take away from all of your experiences?
I think when it comes to wealth, your inner wealth and your inner growth is the bomb. That's where you really gain your wealth as a human being. And then I think the financial wealth, you want to be part of it. You want financial wealth to be part of it, but it kind of is secondary in a sense because if you're wealthy on the inside, you're already very far along. You're very far down the road. And if you have inner wealth and your lights are still running and your refrigerator still goes on or whatever, your basic necessities, I mean, that's a whole lot right there. So I would say to people, consider the importance of embracing things that are going to lead to inner strength, and that inner strength gives you the opportunity to make a difference for others, and that is going to continue to empower you, the fact that you're able to do something and make a difference for other people.
Thank you for that, Rick. Before we get out of here, man, do you have one more that you could give us before we get out of here?
Okay, I'll do that.
All right. Rick, thank you so much, man, for coming on my podcast, sharing your story, Jazz for Peace, the mission and the vision that you have, man. I think it's so powerful, philanthropic, and I just wish you nothing but success with all you that you're doing, man. Just thank you for just coming on here and sharing your story, man. You had tons of great stories, man. So thank you for coming on here and sharing your story with me.
Thank you so much, Mike, and hope we can do something together in South Florida. I've been there a bunch of times and had wonderful experiences helping causes down there.
Absolutely, man. I look forward to it, man. We have a nonprofit as well for the University Academy, so I love to talk with you a little bit more about that. If we could do anything in the future together, man, I would look forward to that.
Great. We'll explore that. That'll be great.
Absolutely, man. Until next time, guys, from my good friend, Mr. Rick DellaRatta, we'll talk to you. Episodes released weekly. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Peace.
Can't complain at all. Couple dollars in my pocket, know it come and go. Been working on my body, getting healthier. Thank God for clarity.